After the miraculous journey of Isra and Miraj, the next morning, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ returned to his normal routine. He went to the Kaaba just like he always did. At that moment, Jibreel came to him. This was the time when the sun had just begun to decline. That's when Jibreel taught the Prophet ﷺ the very first prayer, Salat al-Dhuhr. Jibreel stood as the Imam, leading the Prophet ﷺ. Then the Prophet ﷺ gathered his companions, told them to come for the prayer, and he ﷺ became their Imam. This was the beginning of the daily prayers in Islam. After Dhuhr, Jibreel returned again and taught him the prayer of Asr when the shadow of an object became double. Then came Maghrib. Jibreel instructed the Prophet ﷺ to pray as the sun disappeared from the horizon. Isha was taught next once the twilight vanished. Finally, Jibreel returned for Fajr when the true dawn broke. But Jibreel didn't come just once. He came back the next day and showed the Prophet ﷺ the end time for each prayer. So now the Prophet ﷺ knew both the beginning and the end of the prayer times. Jibreel said, between these two times is the time of the prayer. According to Aisha, the prayers were originally 2 rakahs each. Later, when the Muslims settled and were no longer traveling, the number of rakahs increased to 4 for Dhuhr, Asr, and Isha. But for travelers, the prayer remained in its original form, 2 rakahs. In those early days, the direction of prayer, or the Qibla, was not yet toward the Kaaba. The Prophet ﷺ initially faced Bayt al-Maqdis, Jerusalem. But he, ﷺ, loved the Kaaba dearly. So he would pray in such a way that the Kaaba was in front of him and he was still facing Bayt al-Maqdis. After his painful rejection at Taif, the Prophet ﷺ wanted to return to Makkah. But he needed protection. Someone respected among Quraysh who could vouch for his safety. That noble figure was Mut'im ibn Adi. It was Mut'im who gave the Prophet ﷺ his protection and allowed him to enter Makkah safely even after all that had happened in Taif. As the Hajj season came around and tribes from all over Arabia came to Makkah, the Prophet ﷺ began presenting himself to them. He would go group by group, tribe by tribe, calling them to Islam and asking for protection. He would say, believe in me, take me in. Quraysh has prevented me from delivering the message of my Lord. This public invitation began in the 4th year of prophethood when the Dawah became open. The Prophet ﷺ wasn't just inviting people to Islam. He was also looking for someone who would support him and allow him to convey the message without fear. But Quraysh didn't sit quietly. Abu Lahab, the Prophet's own uncle, would follow behind him, throwing stones and discrediting him. He would say to the tribes, I'm his uncle and I haven't followed him. Why should you? Despite this, the Prophet ﷺ kept going. He presented himself to the tribes of Banu Amir ibn Sasa'a, Kinda, Hamdan, Banu Hanifa, Banu Abs, and many others. Some of these tribes rejected him out of fear of Quraysh. Others were close to accepting. Some young men even advised their tribes to accept him before others did. In one case, a Jewish man heard what had happened and told one of the tribes that they had made a huge mistake. He said that the Prophet ﷺ matched the descriptions found in their scriptures, and that if they had supported him, the tables would have turned. They would have ruled over Quraysh and all the Arabs. This was the painful and patient da'wah of the Prophet ﷺ. As year after year, calling people not just to a religion, but to salvation. All he asked was for someone to take him in, to allow him to deliver the message of Allah without interference, and in return, eternal success.